The goal of freeze drying is to make all sorts of food shelf stable by removing its water content without harming the structure of the food. So what is freeze drying? Well, let's start with water. 4.5 billion years ago, when the oceans were just forming, okay, maybe that's a little too far back, but we do actually need to talk about water to understand freeze drying. Water can exist in 3 states: liquid, frozen, or gaseous, and you can change the state of water by adjusting its temperature. If you were to raise the temperature on food, the water content in that food would turn to gas and evaporate. This is how you dehydrate or dry food, and if you were to lower the temperature, you would freeze the food, making the water content turn solid. So how does freeze drying work? The temperature at which water turns to vapor depends on atmospheric pressure. The lower the pressure is, the lower the temperature required to boil or evaporate water. So if we were to put some water in a vacuum, we could lower the evaporation point to below the freezing point, causing the water to turn directly from a solid to a vapor. This is called sublimation. So in order to freeze dry, we first freeze food, then put it in a vacuum. Then as we raise the temperature on the food while maintaining the vacuum, the ice molecules inside the food will instantly turn to vapor. So calling it freeze drying makes sense because you're drying something from a frozen state. Ideally, when the whole process is done, the food should be left with less than 4% water content, but most often gets down to less than 1. In its freeze-dried state, food will typically keep its physical structure as well as its nutritional value for a possible 30+ years, making it an ideal method for food preservation. Thank you for watching. If you find you're still curious about how freeze drying works, then maybe you can watch this video. In it, you'll find Corey going into the nitty-gritty scientific details of freeze drying.